Right, we continue our coverage on the fragile South Africa-USA relations and who President Cyril Ramaphosa may perhaps appoint as the former Ambassador Ebrahim Rasool's successor. Rasul, of course, meeting with International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola, as we've been reporting. That's after his return to the country yesterday, to what was, you have to say, a hero's welcome. And to help us with this discussion on how important Rasul's successor is in trying to mend relations, I'm joined by Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, the director of the Center for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy at Nelson Mandela University. Rasul arrived back in the country to what was a hero's welcome yesterday, Bab Mngomezulu. Let's just get your thoughts on that. What did you think of the entire thing? His absolute welcome, and then the words that he, of course, put forward as well.
Thank you very much for having me, Pakatoya, and good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, indeed, it was a hero's welcome, and it was expected, more especially given the manner in which he was axed from his position as our ambassador to the US. So the South African leadership, and then, of course, the ANC and the SACP, wanted to create a clear impression that he is not as unwanted as he was in the US. So then they to organize this welcoming to make sure that he had a warm welcome. Then, of course, what transpired on the day, some of your colleagues in the media space were wrestling for the right spot to talk to him directly, when at the same time then the politicians also wanted to have a piece of him. So he was bound to lose track of the main issue, because you recall the president had said that people must tone down and then emotions must run a bit slow, but we didn't see that happening. Instead, you had just bombs exploding from all directions. So, but it was bound to happen given the excitement on the day.
What do you think this does then to South Africa-USA relations then? Does that change things, particularly as well, the words he said? He said he stands by what he said ultimately, and that even though there are certain things, and other members were saying this particularly, that even though some things weren't said openly, they're still saying them in their hearts. So it feels like there may have still been somewhat of an antagonistic nature to yesterday's welcome. Do you get that sense, and does it worsen relations with the US?
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. In fact, if I were to advise Ebrahim Rasool, I would have said to him, when he arrives at the airport, he must just thank everyone who has come to welcome him, and then indicate that I'm going to meet the president and, of course, DECO's minister, that is Ronald Lamola, where I'm going to present a report. For now, I would rather not say anything until I've met my principals. So all the statements he made for me were unwarranted, especially given the volatility of the political situation. What I would be expected from him would be to say least, and then, of course, spend the rest for the latter way, that is after he has met his principals. And lastly, given the manner in which he left the US, obviously, in all probability, they will be watching to see what will happen when he arrives. And of course, they are now aware of all the statements he made, including the one saying that he doesn't regret what he said, he doesn't regret what he did. In my view, that was not correct in terms of maintaining diplomatic relations with the US or any other country for that matter. So it then boils down to the issue of advisors. Did he have advisors? Did they do their job well? If the answer is in the affirmative, then something must have gotten wrong somewhere.
Yeah, it also then defies what the president ultimately asked for in this equation, as you then pointed out as well then. What does this mean then for the successor? Because it feels as though it means that the job gets even harder, and perhaps not even for the successor, even just for President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as Ronald Lamola. How do you set the agenda moving forward with the United States when already the person who was put as persona non grata still continues to ultimately defy the president's orders in itself?
You know what? The problem started with the president, unfortunately. When President Trump commented on the social media, the president had no reason whatsoever to entertain Trump's tantrums, because we know that Trump is used to running the country through the social media. So the president was not supposed to respond. Secondly, when he responded, he didn't respond properly, because he said Trump must keep his America, I will keep my South Africa. You don't do that. especially if you're a head of state. You don't do that. Only Mugabe could do that, and he got away with it. But in the current political situation, that was unwarranted, which makes things difficult then for him as the president of the country. Whoever he appoints, then he will have to do things differently and then give a different mandate to that person who's going to replace Ebrahim Rasool. Had he kept quiet, then the job will be easier, because we'll just be looking for a replacement who will be level-headed and who will say things devoid of emotions and be a diplomat in the real sense, and then forget about entertaining public platforms, rather focus on the job at hand, which is basically to market our foreign policy.
Yeah, I mean, I must, however, caution to add that the situation around which you precisely speak, in which President Cyril Ramaphosa said you can keep your United States, we can keep our South Africa, was in relation to President Donald Trump's first term of office. So that video that perhaps circulated with those exact wording was from a video from quite some time ago. But I get the sentiment that you're trying to put forward here. Just very finally, we have run out of time, though, very quickly. What should the next ambassador to the United States have in terms of capabilities, persona, and understanding of the situation? Mngomezulu, I'm not sure if you could hear me there.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay,
yes,
just very quickly, the kind of ambassador to the United States South Africa needs following this.
You need someone who knows what diplomacy entails. You need someone who's knowledgeable about the job at hand. And you need someone who understands America's politics in general. That is, of course, knowing where the Pentagon fits in this whole scheme of things. And then, most importantly, a person who's going to understand what kind of a person President Donald Trump is. And then that person will be in a better position to represent us well.
Very difficult to see if we'll find one and how quickly that may happen. Indeed, both seats, U.S. ambassador to South Africa and South African ambassador to the U.S., both seats not filled as yet then ultimately. So hopefully we'll try and find a solution to that. Professor Bheki Mngomezulu there, the director of the Center for the Advancement of Non-Racialism as well as Democracy then at the Nelson Mandela University.